Hi there, everybody. Welcome back to The Extra Mile. My name is Gene Gurkoff. It is a beautiful, windy day here in New York City, and I am tremendously honored to be welcoming the newest member of the Charity Miles family, the Jimmy Fund, which raises money for the Dana Farber Cancer Institute in Boston, which many of you know is a truly, truly, truly miraculous place. And I'm so honored for a number of reasons to be partnering with them. One of them being that I have a friend, Adam, who is being treated for stage 4 thyroid cancer at the Dana Farber Cancer Institute right now, like today. And so I will be doing a lot of miles for the Jimmy Fund. The Jimmy Fund's signature event every year is the Jimmy Fund Walk, which takes place on the course of the Boston Marathon, all 26.2 miles from Hopkinton down to Boylston Street. They also have a 13.1 mile option and a 10K option. It's a great event. When I lived up in Boston, everybody knew it, and it was really one of the greatest days of the year in Boston. And for obvious reasons, they can't do it. And so they reached out to us to see if we could help them bring this truly special event to life in Charity Miles. And one of the things that makes this event so special is how they dedicate each mile of the course to a different hero, whether that's a patient, a survivor, a doctor, a nurse, a researcher. And that's what we are trying to help them bring to life in Charity Miles, those stories that really make the work that they do so important. And one of those stories comes from our guest on the podcast today, Julie Wilson. And Julie walked in her first Jimmy Fund walk back in 2013. Her sister, who was living in Boston at the time, invited her and her husband, Travis, to come out and walk the Boston Marathon course with them. And they said, yeah, why not? It was actually going to be their first anniversary. Figure, what a way to celebrate our anniversary. When are we ever going to get a chance to walk the Boston Marathon course again? And so they did. And obviously it was a very meaningful event for them. But, life then threw them a curveball a few years later. And the event took on an even greater meaning for them in future years, as you will hear in Julie's story today. I am not going to preview any more of Julie's story than that because she can tell it much better than I can. I just want to say thank you to Julie for sharing so much of her story with us. And thank you to the Jimmy Fund and to the Dana Farber Cancer Institute for the opportunity to partner with them. And I hope that wherever you are, you turn up your volume and you turn on your Charity Miles. You come along for the walk or the run with me and Julie Wilson and hopefully kick some miles over to the Jimmy Fund Walk and the Dana Farber Cancer Institute. Every mile matters.
You don't really know who you are or what you are until you put a really big challenge in front of you.
Fear is an asset and ally here to help you be magnificent.
This crazy, silly, stupid idea to run across the Sahara Desert.
You did make it this time, but you said if you didn't make it, you would try again and again.
Everybody's connected to nature, connected to music, to their families, and now we're going to build a world that doesn't have racism and war and starving kids.
I kept telling myself, run at me, and just keep smiling.
All right, Julie, thank you very much for joining me today on this walk. How are you doing?
Doing well, thank you.
So I am walking in my neighborhood in New York City. I live at a place called Stuyvesant Town. I'm walking through the parks outside my apartment. Where are you walking this morning?
I am walking in the Cleveland Metro Parks near Rocky River. There's a really cool nature center here that unfortunately isn't open because of COVID right now, but this is pretty much my favorite place to hike, lots of trails.
What's it like out there this morning? It's pretty warm here in New York.
We got a perfect 72 degrees and partly cloudy, so we've had some pretty high temps the last couple of weeks, but can't beat this morning.
All right, well, thank you very much for waking up early to walk with me this morning. Just to provide a little context for the people out there who are walking or running along with us right now, we were introduced by our friends at the Jimmy Fund. And, we've been working with the Jimmy Fund lately to help bring their walk, which is just an incredible day that they do in Boston every year, which unfortunately for obvious reasons they can't do in person this year, but we're all trying to help bring this event to life in Charity Miles. And, I asked them, is there anybody that I could speak to and record a podcast with that could really help share what this day is all about and share some of the special meaning that this day has to them? And they introduced me to you. And so I've read your story. I certainly can't do it justice in telling it. So I'm hoping if I could just, turn it over to you, have you introduce yourself to everybody, share a little bit about your story and what the Jimmy Fund Walk means to you.
Sure, absolutely. So I'm participating in my 5th Jimmy Fund Walk this year, doing it my way, as they like to say, the Jimmy Fund Walk your way. So I'll be doing it virtually this year in October. And this is my 5th one. I did the first one in 2013. I've never been too much of an athlete, but I've always loved hiking. And my sister lives out in Boston, and she called me and she said, hey, did you know that there's a day where you can walk the Boston Marathon? And I was like, well, that would be really cool, because when am I ever going to do a marathon? And so I talked to my husband about it, and it turned out that the 2013 Jimmy Fund Walk was going to be on our first wedding anniversary. So I said, hey, how would you like to spend our first wedding anniversary walking the Jimmy Fund Walk? We're going to do the Boston Marathon. It'll be really cool. And of course he said yes, because he was just as crazy as I was. So we signed up. My sister signed up. My dad signed up, and the 4 of us participated in the walk. My sister actually ended up getting pregnant a couple months before the walk, so she did a lighter version. But my dad, my husband Travis, and I all completed a marathon on that day. And it felt really great. It was one of those that
and you walked,
we didn't really
you walked
have.
The marathon. You didn't run it?
Correct. We walked
That's
it.
Crazy.
The whole experience is just walking. So
Wow.
It's not a day for runners. It's just a day to go out and do the course. You can choose to do 26.2 miles. You can do half the course. You can do a 10K. You can do a 5K. But we wanted to try 26.2, and we did it. And so for years we had this, these bragging rights where we could say, hey, we've done a marathon. My friends would be like, yeah, I just did a marathon. And I'd be like, well, I did Boston, in 8 hours, but I did Boston. So it was really just about bragging rights and that experience and that opportunity the first time around. So, it was kind of one of those, we figured we did it once. Maybe we'll do it again someday, but, that was just our initial introduction to it. And fast forward 3 years later, we had one of those huge curveballs that life throws at you. And Travis had been diagnosed with brain cancer, and he had undergone 3 brain surgeries in a matter of about 5 days, and given a prognosis of somewhere between 12 and 18 months was what they said to expect. It was a grade 4 glioblastoma tumor, and they said he'll probably die within a year. And so we were preparing for him to start radiation and chemotherapy, and thought we'll go out and take one really nice vacation before he starts radiation. And I remember so clearly, we're lying in bed at our hotel in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, 3 o'clock in the morning. Travis wakes me up and he says, hey, can we do the marathon again? And I was like, they just told you you're going to be dead in a year. You just had 3 brain surgeries. Sure, why not? So he decides what he wants to do with the remainder of his life, because he was terminal on diagnosis, was train for a marathon. He wanted to be able to walk 26.2 miles again. And he set a goal of raising $10,000 for brain cancer research at Dana Farber. And that became his mission. I kind of figured that at some point, we'd have to have a talk about whether or not it was realistic, but somehow he pushed through it. He got up every day and did somewhere between 5 and 7 miles, even on days when he had chemotherapy. He went to physical therapy. He would tell his physical therapist that he wanted to climb stairs because he wanted to make sure that he was really in good shape to be able to do this marathon. And so just shy of a year after his initial diagnosis in 2017, he brought himself to Boston, along with about 20 of our closest friends and family. He formed a team, and we did the marathon again. So 2017, a year after his brain cancer diagnosis, he walked 26.2 miles, and that was like the thing he was going to do. So great experience for us.
Wow. How old were you guys at this time?
So Travis and I are actually 10 years apart in age. So he was 42 when he was diagnosed, and I was 32 when he was diagnosed.
Mm. And how long have you been married?
We got married in 2012. We've been together since 2007. We took a while for the actual wedding to happen. So
how did you guys meet?
So Travis was a park ranger down in the state of Delaware, and we met at a park. I went down there to work on some education programs, and we met at Fort Delaware, which is a Civil War historic site. And I spent about a year there and then moved to upstate New York, and he ended up eventually working for the Federal Forest Service. So we kind of moved around upstate for the better part of a decade.
Wow. So when you guys got that diagnosis, you said, life threw you a curveball. I can't even begin to imagine what that curveball must have really felt like. What was your, I guess, process after that? Or what did you guys do to kind of handle that? And how did it come to say, like, okay, well, given this, I want to do the Jimmy Fund Walk Marathon? Like, how did that even come into your mind?
Well, unfortunately, I can't speak for Travis on that, because I don't know if some of it was brain tumor induced. Those things can make you pretty crazy. But most of it was just his personality. So, he gets this life-altering diagnosis. He gets this confirmation that, you have a kind of cancer that kills 92% of people within a matter of 5 years. 80% may live 2 years. And he was lucky enough to be part of that 80%. But this is one of those diagnoses that there's just no coming back from. And, for me, I'm 32 years old, and I've just been told I'm going to be a widow by the time I'm 35. And there is no way to prepare for that. All you can do is wake up and decide that you're just going to put one foot in front of the other and live every day for as long as you possibly have those days. And I think for him, that's what the marathon was all about. It was a big goal that he could set. He no longer had the ability to look at his life and say, I'm going to retire in 25 years, and I want to have a house on the lake, and I want to have all of these different things, and I want to have children, and I want to have grandchildren. Instead, he had to look at what was in front of him, and he decided he was going to set a big goal for himself, and that's what the marathon was. And so that's what 2017 was all about. And I haven't even gotten to 2018, because he managed to make 2017 under his own power, but 2018 was a little bit of a different year for us. After we wrapped up the marathon in 2017, within a couple of weeks, he had not exactly a reoccurrence, because he never went into remission, but a new tumor appeared on his brainstem. And he declined physically very quickly after that. And all through that time, he kept saying, I want to do the marathon in 2018. And that one was a little less realistic. It was like, I don't know how you could possibly be able to do this when we're still struggling to be able to have you walk without assistance. I basically had to walk with him, holding his hand everywhere we went. But he was insistent that he was going to do it. And as the 2018 walk approached, I thought, well, we'll go to Boston. We'll watch everybody complete the marathon. We'll wave at them as they go by. We'll park along the course. We'll be really great spectators. And he said, no, I want to do it. And so we managed to find an organization in Massachusetts called Smile Mass, and they have equipment that they loan to individuals with disabilities, and they lent us a racing wheelchair, and our team pushed Travis all 26.2 miles. So he got to do the marathon again in 2018. So, just his ability to adjust his plans for life and the way he was going to live and the way he was going to go out on his own terms, it was just incredible. I mean, he had an incredibly positive attitude throughout 28 months of being a brain cancer patient. And he never wavered. He always wanted to help other people. He wanted to do the most that he could. And he felt like if he showed up every day and went outside and walked as much as he could, that he would be able to help somebody else through their fight.
I just can't even imagine. I mean, I know what it's like to train for the Boston Marathon. I know what it's like to run the Boston Marathon, to stand in Hopkinton, to go through Wellesley, to make that turn onto Boylston Street, and it's just incredibly emotional to do it. I mean, it's so hard to describe, but like overwhelming. Like I tear up in Hopkinton each time, but I can't imagine what it must have been like in the way that you guys did it. It must have just been, I don't even know how to describe it. I'm sure you don't even know how to describe it. Was there a difference in the feeling because you did it 3 times? So you've done it 3 times, right? Once before the diagnosis and twice after?
So I've done the marathon 3 times. I've participated in the Jimmy Fund Walk 4 times. So in 2018, I kind of ran support service because Travis was participating in a wheelchair. But I've done 26.2 3 times, once before the diagnosis. And then we also did the walk last year after Travis had died. It was one of those that I thought, well, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I want to do this. And I thought about taking the year off, but it seemed like the right thing to do. It's the right way to remember him. And so we got our team back together, and I went out and did the marathon. And the most emotional moment for me is I had met a woman online whose husband had the same diagnosis as Travis. And he had died a few months before the walk as well. And she joined our team. And we had arranged to meet at the finish line. So, I've just finished 26.2 miles. My legs are super wobbly. I'm kind of, standing there basking in the glow and the excitement of finishing and getting to go back to the hotel and get in the pool and have several beers. And, I'm waiting for her. And, we just had this instant connection of just having experienced the same thing, the loss of our husbands. And, that for me was probably one of the most emotional moments. 2017, when Travis finished the marathon, he finished an hour ahead of everybody else on our team. He just booked it. And so he was actually waiting for me at the end of the walk. That's one of the amazing things about the experience of the Jimmy Fund Walk is everybody has a reason for being there. And I've never run a marathon, but I imagine talking is probably not super easy while you're running a marathon. But when you're walking, you can have great conversations with people. And so in 2017, Travis is up ahead of me on the course, and I'm walking along, and people are asking questions, why are you doing this? Tell me about your team. Tell me about Team Wolverine. What is this? And I would say, my husband is battling brain cancer, and they'd say, oh, you're doing this for him. And I said, well, yeah, but he's doing it for himself. He's 3 miles ahead of me. So, it's just an incredible experience because everybody there has some reason. They have a brother, a sister, a child, a parent, somebody that they're walking for. And that's what makes the experience so incredible is the, 10,000 people all coming together and having a common reason and a common goal for being there.
What is your reason going to be this year?
Well, so this year, I have a little bit of an extra special reason. So Travis and I had always wanted to have a family, and after his cancer diagnosis, we went through the process to preserve our ability to have kids. And we tried in vitro fertilization while he was still with us. And unfortunately, we didn't have any success. But there were a couple of little embryos left in my life after Travis died. And I decided to go ahead with trying again to conceive. And so 10 weeks ago, I had a beautiful little baby girl. And she's my reason for everything now. So she's the reason I get up and walk every day, and the reason I keep moving. And I actually broke my leg about 10 days before I had her. And so I'm fighting through getting back from that injury and making sure that I'm ready for this year's Jimmy Fund Walk, because her dad should be here. She should have had a chance to meet her dad. And that's why I'll keep doing this walk until there aren't little girls growing up without their dads because of brain cancer.
Will she be doing the walk with you? Will be pushing her in the stroller?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, she's my little training buddy. I left her with Grandpa today just to keep things a little more simple, so I had a hand free to be able to record the podcast. But she loves the stroller. She loves the front pack. And right now we're doing about 5 to 7 miles a day, trying to get ready and make sure we're ready for something substantial. I don't know if we'll do 26.2, but we'll do something big on that Jimmy Fund Walk Day this year.
I have a feeling that you're going to do 26.2. What's your daughter's name?
Her name is Logan, which is a little nod to my husband as well. So our team is
name.
Team Wolverine. Yeah. So our team is Team Wolverine, which Travis, when he had brain surgery, for about 3 days after the surgery, he genuinely believed that he was the Wolverine from the X-Men. And it was a bit of a delusion situation that ended up turning into his cancer fighting alter ego. And that's why we formed the team and called it Team Wolverine. And so when we were talking about baby names, the Wolverine's name is Logan. And so I didn't know if she was going to be a boy or a girl. I
it's a great name for both.
Surprise even from myself for before having her. So, but I knew that whether the boy or a girl, this was going to be Logan. And so when she was born, it was like, well, hello, we have a little girl named Logan.
That's amazing. So this year when you're doing the walk your way with Logan, whether you do 26.2 or not, I have a feeling you're going to do 26.2. How are you going to be doing? Are you going to have your team come and do it with you? Are people spread out across the country? How are you going to be doing it your way?
So that's one of the really cool things about our team in particular is we're all over the place. We've had team members come from Seattle, Maryland, Delaware, Ohio, of course. Mm-hmm. We actually have very few local team members in the Boston area, and so we've always traveled and come together in Boston for the marathon. And this year we're going to be spread out all over the place, walking from home. We've got some really great activities planned, some suggestions from the good folks at the Jimmy Fund to help, bring our team together, even if we can't be physically together. And so everybody's going to be walking from their own home states. I'll probably be down here in the Cleveland Metro Parks because I know these trails so well. And we'll find ways to keep ourselves close together while staying socially distant, of course.
Will you have people from your town or where you live come out and join you?
I hope so. I know at least my dad will be with me. So Grandpa Joe is the only one on our team surviving that has done every one of the Jimmy Fund walks. So he's completed the marathon 4 times. Travis was only able to do it 3 times before he died. And he's in his mid-60s, so he's a real trooper going out every year and doing it. And so I know I'll definitely have my dad with me and Logan with me, and hopefully we can recruit some more locals to come out and join us walk out here this year.
That's amazing. What is it there's people that are listening to this that are part of the Jimmy Fund Walk family already, and there are people who are listening to this who might not yet know that much about the Jimmy Fund Walk other than what they've heard just now. So what is it that you would like people to know about the Jimmy Fund Walk and the Dana Farber Cancer Institute?
So for us, we started doing this walk just because we wanted a physical challenge, and that's a perfectly good reason to do it. So anybody can participate if they just want to try something different. It doesn't have to be a marathon. You could try a half marathon. Even just walking a 5K, we have team members who challenge themselves to walk 3.1 miles every year. And for those individuals, that's a challenge, and that's a big deal. And it's incredible that they're willing to go out and do it. But once you have that cancer diagnosis in your life, doing this for the Dana Farber Cancer Institute really means so much more. Travis was treated actually at 3 different hospitals because his cancer had, it's a rare cancer, and it has so many different clinical trials and studies that are going on that we had to go to different places to find different opportunities to treat him, keep him going, and help him as a patient to participate in advancing the research. And Dana Farber was one of those hospitals that we went to. He participated in a clinical trial, and unfortunately for him, the research hasn't advanced to the point that it was able to save his life. But it was important to him to just be a part of helping to make those changes and helping to advance those research efforts for other people in the future. And that's what they're doing at Dana Farber, and that's why we continue to support those efforts. Everything for our team is designated to glioblastoma research, and we've now officially raised over $100,000 with our team alone since 2017. And so, it's a big deal. This is a big fundraiser for Dana Farber and the Jimmy Fund, and not being able to all get together in Boston, I know it's tough for them. And so it's even more important for us to support it this year and make sure that we help them meet their goals. And just because there's a virus doesn't mean that cancer doesn't continue to be a problem. So it doesn't go away, and we've got to keep fighting for the patients that are there and the ones that'll be there next week that don't even know yet that this is a challenge they're going to face.
That is true. COVID did not cure cancer. We got to step up now more than ever. I will be walking with you. I will be walking with you. I am walking with you. I have a friend who's being treated at Dana Farber now, like actually today he's even there. And so I'm walking with you. I'm walking for him and his family. And, I'm grateful for this opportunity to meet you and to share your story and Travis's story and now Logan's story. And I'm honored that I'll be able to walk with you and Team Wolverine for the Jimmy Fund Walk our way. So thank you so much.
Wonderful.
For sharing.
We're so glad to have you joining us this year. Is this your first time participating in the Jimmy Fund Walk?
Yes, it is my first time doing the Jimmy Fund Walk.
Excellent. And next year when we're back on the course, I hope you'll join us again.
I hope so too. I have a good sense of what it looks like. So
you can slow down
to
and really enjoy it while you walk it.
Yeah, exactly. But Julie, thank you so much for taking the time to share your story with us this morning and Travis's story this morning. It's a beautiful legacy that he's left, and even more so now because of Logan. And like I said, we're just honored to be able to walk with you. So thank you again very much.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Every mile matters.